Domingo Ulloa's Braceros is a wonderful painting by an important artist who was considered the father of Chicano art. Early in his career, he devoted himself to issues around social justice, and we see this very clearly in this pivotal painting from his career. The painting depicts a group of braceros at a bracero camp. Bracero is a term that emerges in the United States around 1942, and it's related to a program known as a bracero program, which was a joint agreement between the United States and Mexico to send agricultural workers to the United States. They worked during a time when many American men were fighting World War II abroad. So braceros really did a huge service to the United States during a time of need. The conditions under which they worked and lived were very difficult. When workers arrived, they were often sprayed with pesticides. Oftentimes, they would sign contracts that they couldn't understand because most of the workers spoke Spanish and the contracts were written in English. They also worked strenuously in hot fields, and they lived in very substandard housing, often without heat, without running water. So it was very difficult to be a worker during this time. The painting depicts a group of braceros seemingly waiting for something to happen. There are several men that are very close to the front of the painting, and we see their faces very clearly. They're very individualized. If you look over their heads, you see a mass of hats behind the men that are in the front, which gives a sense of a large volume of people. There are several shacks in the back of the painting that suggest they're substandard living quarters. The men in the front of the painting look very solemnly out at the viewer. No one is smiling. Most of the men, in fact, have frowns, and they're looking straight out at us as the viewer. The way that the artist has painted the work is very gestural. So if you look at the faces of some of the men in the front, you could almost see the swirls of the paintbrush that the artist used to depict their faces. This aspect of his painting style really adds emotion. The barbed wire in the painting, for me, is a critical aspect to understanding this work. Barbed wire started having this association with the Holocaust and Japanese internment. And I think that Domingo Ulloa must have been very acutely aware of the association between this fencing material and a larger concept of injustice. What's also fascinating is the way that he has humanized the barbed wire. If you look at part of the painting, it looks like the barbed wire has been pulled apart to make more space for us to look into the painting. So there are all these elements in the work that really encourage us to see these workers as human beings. Domingo Ulloa was an artist who was committed to social justice. The whole painting is really set up to engage the viewer, to have them think about the conditions in which these workers lived and worked. I think the painting really conjures our empathy, in part because it effectively conveys the humanity of these people. It places us face to face with these workers, eye to eye, and it's offered to us as testimony to this difficult moment in American history, but also as an invitation for us to think about how we relate to injustice.